Hello children. In the previous class, we have learnt about the chapter A Visit to Cambridge. Now we are going to recapitulate the chapter with the help of these short question answers. Question 1. Who is the author of this lesson? The author's name of this lesson is Firdos Kanga. Question 2. What is wrong with his physique? He is perhaps a wheelchair bound polio victim. What was his plan behind his visit to Britain? His plan behind his visit to Britain was to write a book about his travels. Who did he contact at Cambridge? For those contacted the brilliant but paralytic astrophysicist Stephen Hawking. What makes a disabled person feel stronger? Meeting another handicapped person who has achieved something big makes the disabled person feel stronger and more inspired to do better. As for those Kanga is on wheelchair and he is meeting Stephen Hawking who is also paralyzed. So they both are handicapped and for those Kanga is sharing his experiences that he is feeling so great to meet another handicapped person who has achieved something high. Rewrite removing 2. You are too lazy to draw a check. You are so lazy that you do not draw even a check. Who is Firdos Kanga interviewing? Firdos Kanga is interviewing famous scientist Stephen Hawking, a renowned scientist. What is common between the speaker and the person he is talking to? Both are handicapped, both have decided to live creatively, and we have seen in this chapter that both have achieved something great. What message did Stephen give to disabled people world over? He called upon all the disabled people to give wholehearted attention only to what they were capable of doing. Olympic Games organized for the disabled were a waste of time. It was simply true that he was emphasizing that disabled people should concentrate on that thing on which they are good at. They should not waste their time on Olympics. Use the word waste as a noun and as a verb. Verb. Don't waste your precious time. Here, waste is acting as a verb. Watching TV is not all waste of time. Here, watching is acting as a noun. Some more questions. Who is Stephen Hawking? Stephen Hawking is a great scientist and astrophysicist, but he is disabled. He has written the book A Brief History of Time. He can express himself only through a computer, only by pressing the buttons on the keyboard. Question 2. What took the author Firdos to England? Why did he wish to see Hawking? Firdos Kanga visited Britain in order to write a book about his travels. He himself could move only in a wheelchair. On the advice of his guide, Kanga planned to meet the most brilliant and completely paralyzed astrophysicist Hawking in Cambridge. How did Kanga fix the interview with Hawking? Kanga phoned Hawking and requested the scientist's assistant to arrange the interview. He asked for 10 minutes, but he got half an hour. What advice do people usually give to the disabled? Was Hawking brave by choice? The people generally advise the disabled to be brave. Hawking admitted truthfully that he hadn't been brave. In fact, he had no choice. What advice does the scientist give to the handicapped? He advises disabled people to concentrate on what they are good at so that they can achieve high in that. They should not try to copy the normal people as they cannot do the things like normal people. So they should concentrate on the things on which they are good at so that they can attain high position. Write about Stephen Hawking and Firdos Kanga. Both of them are disabled people. Stephen Hawking is one of the greatest scientists of our time. He suffers from the paralysis that confines him to a wheelchair and knows him to speak only by punching buttons on a computer, which speaks for him in a machine like voice. For those Kanga and journalist, he lives and works in Mumbai. He was born with brittle bones that tended to break easily when he was a child. Like Hawking, Kanga moves around in a wheelchair. So they both were handicapped. Kanga was having brittle bones while he is not able to walk, and Stephen Hawking was also having a paralysis and he also not able to walk. So both were handicapped. Why did the writer feel guilty talking to Stephen Hawking? The writer felt guilty every time he spoke to Stephen Hawking because by doing this, he forced him to respond. As Stephen Hawking was only talking by pressing the buttons, so it was difficult for Stephen Hawking to find the words and press the buttons. So that's why he was thinking that he was feeling guilty whenever he was asking questions from him. Stephen Hawking's eyes would often shut in frustrated exhaustion. The writer could feel his anguish, but he had no option because he had to ask him questions. He had gone to his house to talk to him on certain points. I hope the chapter is clear to you now. Thank you, children.